This is BBC Radio 5 Live.
Apparently the film's very good. It's 9 o'clock, it's your call. Shadow Home Secretary Yvette Cooper says gay marriage would strengthen the institution. Today the government outlines its plans for same-sex ceremonies, but it's causing dissent among Tory ranks and opposition from some church groups. Maria Miller, the Culture Secretary, says she wants to make marriage more relevant to today's society. The Conservative Home Office Minister, James Brokenshire, told us everyone should be able to enjoy a happy marriage.
Marriage is a positive thing. It's a great thing. I'm, delighted that I'm in a happy marriage. And that's something I think that all people of all sexuality should be able to benefit from.
Would allowing gay men and women to get married strengthen the institution of marriage? Call me 0500 909 693. You can text 85058. You're with 5 Live.
5 Live.
Will gay marriage strengthen the institution of marriage? Sam Dix from Stonewall. Good morning, Sam. We've just lost Sam. We'll get Sam back as soon as we possibly can. We've got Colin Hart from the Coalition for Marriage. Colin Hart, hello. This will strengthen marriage, won't it?
No. I think people won't know what marriage is about. In Spain, where they introduced gay marriage, the number of people getting married, heterosexuals, plummeted because people just didn't know what marriage was about.
Well, surely that might be other social factors rather than this. You're not going to not get married to somebody because all of a sudden same-sex people are marrying. It's the
point. It's the point. If you don't know what marriage is, then if it's
it's two people who love each other. Forming this bond, institutionalized.
Yeah, but marriage has always been between one man and one woman, and that predates nation states and predates the church. It's a very ancient institution. It's recognised all over the world, and there's only 11 countries in the world where it's been changed, and the government is steamrolling this through. It wasn't in the manifesto. It wasn't in any party manifesto. And
would it stop you getting married if you weren't married? Would it confuse
No, it wouldn't stop me getting married. But there are people who obviously, when it comes to weighing up, I think they might think, well, what's marriage for then if it isn't one man and one woman?
Mm-hmm. Sam Dick, you're there now. Hello, we lost you for a second. Good morning. Hello.
Good morning.
Hello, Sam Dick. Are you there?
I am.
All right. Did you hear any of that from Colin Hart?
Yes, I did. I think it's vaguely ridiculous for Miss Hart to claim that some couples that love each other and who are looking to get married are somehow going to decide not to because other gay people somewhere else in the country are able to get married. Most people in this country, and polling has shown it time and time again, support the government's proposals to introduce same-sex marriage, and that includes 3 in 5 people of faith. So whilst there's a small vocal minority who oppose this marriage, our advice to them is, if you disagree with same-sex marriage, don't get married to someone of the same sex.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's ridiculous, isn't it? For a start, the polling doesn't show that. It depends what question you ask. And we've done polling with ComRes and with ORB, and there's also been a YouGov poll showing that the public are not in favour of redefining marriage. Now, if you ask a question, it's important to say to people that all the benefits of marriage are already available through civil partnerships. And once people hear that, there's a clear majority against redefining marriage.
But heterosexuals can't have civil partnerships.
Well, exactly. And the government is talking about equal marriage, but it's not proposing to allow heterosexuals to have civil partnerships. It'll be completely unequal. Gays will be able to go into marriage or civil partnerships, but heterosexuals will only be able to get married. That's not very equal, is it?
Sam Dick.
To take the polling point, we could debate time and time again about the merits of different polling, but the YouGov polling that we commissioned actually asked people, do you support this proposal? We didn't ask them random questions about the legal this and the legal that. We simply said, do you support the government's proposal to allow same-sex couples to marry? And 71% of people said they do.
But they don't. It is an important issue of equality.
Hang on, let Sam Dick.
It is an important issue of equality to lift the ban on same-sex couples entering something which everyone agrees is a positive institution for society. It helps make couples more stable. It helps make families more stable. Why are we banning same-sex couples who are in loving monogamous relationships from entering that incredibly valuable institution?
Sam, for you, what is the extra factor about this that makes it so desirable beyond a civil partnership?
I think that, you know, many lesbian, gay and bisexual people out there, whether they've entered civil partnerships or not, respect and value marriage. They haven't been able to enter marriage, and there are a number of couples out there who have entered civil partnerships who, had they had the choice, would have entered marriage.
What for you is the difference, though? Just explain for our listeners.
Well, for the one thing that Mr. Hart and I agree on is that marriage is a well-known, well-understood, valued institution. We hold it up as the things that couples should aim for. And civil partnerships are incredibly valuable and have provided people legal rights. But it is not the same sort of recognition that gay people's brothers and sisters and parents and aunts and uncles have been able to have their relationships reflected in. So it's about gay people being able to have the same standard of legal recognition as all of their heterosexual family members.
No, I mean, Peter Tatchell's quite right. Gays will have more rights than heterosexuals if this goes through. And you talked about families. Well, I mean, if two sisters live together, one dies, they don't have any legal rights at all. The other has to pay inheritance tax on the property. It's only between a husband and wife or between those in a civil partnership. And that is a right far in excess of what ordinary family members have, brothers and sisters, uncles and nephews. They have to pay all these taxes. It's really very advanced. And the thing is that a lot of people do not realise the legal rights that are already available through civil partnerships. Whether you agree with them or not, those rights are already there.
Are you religious, Colin?
I'm a Christian.
Right, so this is kind of based on that, is it?
Well, of course, for me it is.
Yeah,
but there are most people who signed our petition don't go to church at all.
No.
And I don't actually know.
Sam Dick, do you respect those of a particular religious persuasion, whatever their faith may be, who object to this on religious grounds? Do you respect that, Sam Dick?
Of course. We completely respect the fact that some people do not agree with same-sex marriage. We respect that some religious organisations do not agree with same-sex marriage. But that's why nothing that we have suggested, and as far as I'm aware, but we'll wait and see the announcement later today, nothing the government is suggesting will force any religious individual who disagrees with same-sex marriage, any religious organisation who disagrees with same-sex marriage, to celebrate or change their views about those marriages. All it does is allow for same-sex couples to get married if they wish to do so.
Well, I think the problem is that there are already cases where people are being punished for their views on traditional marriage. You take the case of Adrian Smith, the housing manager, who was demoted, had his pay cut by 40% because of his beliefs in traditional marriage. Couples who can't foster because of their beliefs in traditional marriage. There are already cases happening, and what will happen if the law changes? It will become a real problem if people work in the public sector. If teachers don't want to teach about marriage because they find they can't teach, in their view, that two men or two women can be just as married as a man and a woman.
Well, that's slightly scaremongering. There have been a small handful of cases which are, and we have agreed, very disproportionate in terms of the reaction to them. But it is scaremongering to suggest that somehow by allowing same-sex couples to get married, that everyone is going to have to start saying it's wonderful, and teachers are going to have to start telling children that they should have same-sex marriages.
Because the law says
they won't. The law is entirely clear.
That
and in schools about marriage, all schools have to do is say that civil partnerships exist. They say marriages exist. You know, nothing in law, nothing in guidance from the Department of Education tells them that they have to condone it or what they have to say about any of them.
OK, let's bring in Jackie's in London. Jackie's in London. And hello, Jackie.
Hello, morning, Nicky.
Morning to you. What's your position on this?
Well, my position isn't sort of the same stances I've been listening to, because I think it's relatively simple, my feeling. I think it's wonderful that gay people can have the civil partnership, and I see no reason why they can't then go on to having a marriage which gives them equality in the full sense. I'm not a religious person at all, but I do know, having been running a group which is Families Together London, people coming along who are devout Christians, who have their whole life in the church, their social life, their religious Sunday worship, and everything about their friends and their family is involved in the church, that their child comes out gay, and they then have got this terrible dilemma with loving their child, loving their church, but their church is preaching to them that homosexuality is evil. So we have a lot of parents come to us with that particular dilemma. So my feeling, I think this is all on the back of the Is this all on the back of the David Davis article that he wrote about?
No, it's on the back really of the fact that today the government's going to outline its plans, you see, for same-sex ceremonies.
Well, yeah. I think that it should be for full equality. I see absolutely no reason.
Your children are gay, are they?
Yes, I have got two gay children. I have a 25-year-old son and a 28-year-old daughter. Both my children are gay.
Would they like to get married with a capital M?
Well, I think, like a lot of young people, they're not rushing into marriage anyway. Both of mine are in loving relationships.
But you would think you would like people in their situation to have that right, would you?
Yes, because I think that it's very important that that gay people, like any heterosexual person, should have the opportunity to live a life as any other person. But as I said, I just feel that I'm not coming at it from the religious side. I just think it should be made available. But we do have a lot of issues with parents who come to us about this this situation about marriage, because they think that it should follow on in a relationship, and they have this confusion about which way they should deal with it. It's a very, very difficult situation. A lot of people are very torn up about it. You can imagine if you believed, I don't know whether you're a Christian person, but if you have spent all your life worshipping and believing, and suddenly it's all turned on its head because the child that you gave birth to, who you love beyond anything else, suddenly comes into, and
you get a new perspective on it, I would have thought.
Well, we've actually seen a remarkable changes in people. One couple who admitted that they were homophobic have had to completely and utterly change their views and relearn, and have had to come out.
Interesting. Colin Hart, what do your gay friends think about this?
Well, of course, there are a number of gay MPs who are totally against.
What about
marriage.
your own gay friends? What do they think about it?
You know, sticking to the actual issue.
I'm just wondering what your people you talk to think about it when you have conversations.
People I talk to,
your gay friends, what do they say?
The gay community is divided. And so, if you talk to gay people, that they're divided.
We've got a text here. Actually, it's a tweet to me saying that you're wrong. Marriage hasn't always been one man, one woman. There's plenty of polygamy around in various holy scriptures.
Well, that is the point. You know, in the West, we have rejected that, and some of the groups that are welcoming the government decision to have gay marriages in churches. There are individuals within the Quakers, there are individuals within Unitarians who would also want polygamy as well. The fact is, the mainstream
the Quakers want polygamy?
No, there are some Quakers who want polygamy.
Okay. James is in James, you think it's the beginning of the end for our total breakdown of our society, do you?
Yes, sir. Right, and because it's primarily because if marriage is going to be redefined, it means it has been defined already. and it has been defined by God. Marriage is honorable and all, and the bed undefiled, but fornicators and adulterers, God will judge. That's what the Bible says. Now, what I'm saying, if there's going to be redefinition, it means there has been a definition already, and we have to ask, the question has to be asked, who defined marriage in the first place? Right? God has defined marriage. It is not just an outstanding institution, as our Prime Minister said. It is a sacred institution.
Barney in Scotland says, here's a text to read out to you.
Hello?
Hello. Barney in Scotland says, God is love, therefore objection to same-sex marriage on religious grounds is irrelevant. Love is love. It doesn't matter what form it takes. That's simple. That's Barney
when
says
Bible
that.
speaks about love, Bible speaks about love. Love consistent with God's holiness. So if people speak about love in quotes, which goes against what the Bible says, it is not true love. The Bible is because we are dealing with the whole issue of purity in land.
We don't live in a
marriage goes.
I understand your situation. I understand your position,
Hello?
but we don't. We don't live in a theocracy, though. So we have
yes,
civil laws.
I'm aware that we don't live in a theocracy, but it is true that we don't live in a theocracy. But however, it is also true to say that theological principles ought to have some bearing at least upon the real life. Because if the floodgates are open, there's no end to
why should theological principles have any bearing on? Because there are very many. Sam Dick, you come in here. There are very many different interpretations of theological principles, aren't there? Sam
That
Dick?
is true, but this is one theological principle that is undisputable. Marriage is a straightforward thing. It's straightforward.
Clearly defined and straightforward. Sam Dick, clearly defined and straightforward.
Well, we live in a society where we respect different religious denominations having different views.
No, we don't.
And it's not for one religious organisation or a number of religious organisations to dictate to others that support same-sex marriage or support any initiative to tell them what to do. And that's why we've been lobbying for an approach where you say, if you're a religious organisation that wants to celebrate and respect same-sex marriages, as we've done in the past with civil partnerships, you can do so. It's not for anyone else to tell you not to. If you're a religious organisation that doesn't want to do that, that's completely understandable. No one is going to force you to do so, and we'll make clear in the law that no one can force you to do so.
It's 9:22. Thank you all very much so far. Let me just give you a statement from the President of South Africa, President Jacob Zuma.
Your call.
We've got Robert in Ilkley. Hello, Robert.
Hi, Nicky.
Hi, and Paul in Brighton. Good morning, Paul.
Hello, Nicky.
Hi there. Tim's in Cambridge. Hello to Tim.
Morning.
Paul, you go first. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think one thing will come out of this. I think Nick Clegg will become infamous for pushing this through against most of the Conservatives' views.
David Cameron's pushing it through.
Yeah, I think Nick Clegg will do it. He's been putting the pressure on David Cameron.
Well, David Cameron spoke about this at the Tory party conference before he was even Prime Minister.
That's to keep the coalition together.
No, that was before the coalition when he was just the leader of the Conservative Party. He spoke about it.
Yeah, but this wasn't in the manifesto, and
well, he spoke about the rights of gay couples to get married a long time ago. David Cameron.
Gay couple civil partnership, Nicky's okay.
Well, whatever you say about David Cameron, he's been on this issue for a long time. He fundamentally believes in it. This is the new generation of Govite Cameronites who don't have a problem with gay people.
No, nor do I. I don't. But I think that that church weddings, I think, is the step too far.
Why?
This will open up the door for the Islam in this country. I think Christianity will die, and we'll have that big mosque in London being built, and most people who are Christians will convert to Islam.
Oh, that's ridiculous. Oh, ridiculous.
I don't think so. I don't think so. You know, I'm close to the ground here. I hear what people think.
No one is ever suggesting...
Who's that?
This is Robert.
Robert, on you go, Robert.
Oh, yeah. No one's suggesting that churches will be forced to carry out religious marriages.
Well, look, can I pick up on that point? When homosexuality was legalised, they said that would be enough. They do want anything else. And now it's gone 1 step, 2 step, 3 step, and now we're here.
Yes.
You're going to say 1 step, 2 step
predicted that.
Too far. Are you going to say this is going too far? So you'll allow them a little bit of string, but you won't give them the whole ball.
I say that most people who are pushing for gay church weddings are atheists anyway. but they know that the great opposition to all of this is the church.
Oh, this is starting to stink.
So get rid of the church.
Okay, let's get some calm here. Is that you, Robert?
It is, yeah.
Lay out your stall for us, uninterrupted, please.
Okay, I think what really does it matter, if two people who happen to be of the same gender, who are practicing Christians, want to celebrate their love and their union in a religious ceremony that reflects their faith. Who does that really affect other than the people involved? If you don't, if you're a member of a church that wants to encourage this, well, move to a different church. Go and become a Roman Catholic. Do it.
If you commit a sin in the eyes of the church, you go for forgiveness, not for
Colin Hart, do you want to come in and just address Robert's point there?
Well, I think there have always been restrictions on marriage, haven't there? And churches.
Have there?
I mean, Jesus.
What do you mean by always?
Yeah, well, exactly. But I mean, Jesus is very clear that marriage is between one man and one woman.
No, that's not actually the case.
Well, look, you're disagreeing.
Can you quote that scripture? Can you quote that?
Yeah, Matthew 19. But the point is this.
I'm on it.
There is no way of introducing this, given the current development of law, without imposing it. And it may be that the government can come up with protections that last a year or two, but we're talking about something for the next generation. We know now that people are being punished for their views on traditional marriage. People like Adrian Smith had his salary cut by 40%. People agree that was wrong. But if that's happening now, it's going to get far worse if marriage is redefined. There are
which bit of Matthew 19? Which verse?
Well, I haven't got my Bible with me.
Well, I've got it online. There's lots of verses.
Well, look, marriages predates the country, predates the church.
So does polygamy.
Well, yes,
so does stoning, so does slavery.
Yeah, well, the point is...
Do you really think that we're not a progressive species? Do you not think that...
What about procreation? Why don't you bring procreation into this?
Well, that's a good point.
Well, test tube babies.
Well,
there we go, exactly.
What do you mean by...
I mean, that's just making a joke of it.
Paul, what do you mean by taking...
Wait
a minute, what do you mean by bringing procreation into it?
Well, that's what the man and woman together was for.
What do you mean was for?
Lots of people procreate who aren't married. Are you saying that they're
lots of people who are married don't procreate? Okay, wait a minute, everyone. I want to hear from Tim. Wait a minute. I want to hear from Tim in Cambridge. I don't think Tim's spoken yet.
Well, been quite hard to get in. Nicky, I'm a church warden in a church in Cambridgeshire, and I hope it goes without saying I don't speak for the Church of England or even the church in particular, but I just wanted to give the view from somebody who's kind of at the heart of the tradition within the church. Our view, where we are, is quite simply that we should not be turning anyone away from the church if they have elected to use the church. I think arguments that if people change, if people get married in church, everyone's going to convert to Islam is ridiculous, because the church is clearly in far greater crisis if people swap so easily from their belief system. I don't think that is an issue at all. We as the church should be welcoming people in. The Matthew 19 chapter, the other caller is referring to, talks about the picture of what marriage actually is, and without wishing to get into any theology, the only words Jesus ever said about marriage was that it represented Christ himself and the church coming together. That is the picture of marriage that he paints in Matthew 19. Although he's used the word wife, it is only used once. It's about two people come together and make a commitment.
And I say unto you, if I may, and I'm not saying unto you, I'm quoting. I've not gone all sort of biblical. I say unto you, this is Matthew 19:9, whoever shall put away his wife, except it be for fornication, and shall marry another, committeth adultery. What does that mean? Who's so married?
Hang on, read a few verses before that, where it talks about marriage between one man and one woman.
No, so the man and his wife. But what Jesus was talking about was the split, that if you make a commitment, and this is actually the point I'm trying to make here, if two people make a commitment to each other, within the eyes of God, that is sanctified by the church. Now, I think the church is using gay marriage as a terrible smokescreen to avoid what is the real issue, is the number of people who are in broken marriages in this country. I would rather see the Church of England and people calling into this programme this morning putting their firepower into looking at the issue of the number of broken marriages in this country, the number of divorces, the issue of promiscuity happening in heterosexual marriages. There is far more damage going on.
So will this strengthen, Tim?
In heterosexual marriages than there could ever be in gay marriages, just by the sheer number of people involved.
That's another issue. That's another issue.
Well, Tim, do you think it's not actually, because it's actually what we're talking about?
We should be looking at.
Tim, do you think this will strengthen, then, the institution of marriage?
I absolutely do. And that is, I stress that's my opinion. I'm not speaking for the Church of England or even for my particular church, but I absolutely do. If two individuals, be they heterosexual or homosexual, have elected to get married in the church with the spiritual connotations that are there, that can only strengthen the church's position, because they have elected to use the church for that issue. And any right-thinking priest or vicar within a church will have a thorough discussion with those two people, as they do before all marriages, to divine whether they're actually, there is a spiritual component to their wishing to get married there, or whether it's just a pretty backdrop for the photographs. And be they homosexual or heterosexual, there is a decision to be made there.
Thank you.
I think we ought to look back at Rome and Greece to see what may be awaiting us in the future.
What? Do you mean Euro crisis? What?
A bit of that as well, Nicky.
I think there are plenty of civilizations that have passed into history, which you're inferring there that
he's moral depravity. I think he's talking about moral depravity.
Yes,
leading to the end of civilization.
I don't see it as
but surely this is a counter to moral depravity, isn't it?
Get married, wish to confirm their love for each other, and wish to get married in the union in church. That doesn't strike me as moral depravity.
No, thank you. 9:33. Let's get more on the update on the condition of former President Nelson Mandela. Good morning. 9:41. Will gay marriage strengthen the institution of marriage? David Burrows, MP for Enfield Southgate, Conservative MP, joins us. Good morning.
Good morning.
We've got Emma in Wilmslow in Cheshire. Hello, Emma.
Hi there.
And we've got Carol in Derbyshire. Good morning, Carol. And Alex, who's in Warwickshire. Hello, Alex.
Hi.
Do you have a problem with this, David Burrows?
Do you have a problem with what?
Gay marriage, David Burrows?
I have a problem with redefining marriage, given that that's what it's always been between a man and a woman. That's the way it's been historically defined, and I don't see any need to do that, given that quite properly civil partnerships are recognised and have legal rights pretty much equivalent to marriage.
How did you feel when David Cameron, before he was Prime Minister, stood up at that Tory party conference and had a sort of rallying cry for civil partnerships and for gay marriage and the equal validity of them? Because it didn't go down well with a lot of Tories, did it?
No, it didn't. And I mean, what I think, it's not just an issue about the Conservative Party. We shouldn't be overindulgent by just debating within the Conservative Party. It's an issue for the public out there, and a huge number of people of all political parties and affiliations, and none, don't see the need to redefine marriage. They're properly legal rights for same-sex unions, but why do we redefine this historical institution that has stood us in good stead and should do to come? But we shouldn't just rush to legislate like this and have the impact which could impact on people's liberty of conscience to be able to speak about marriage, as well as the freedom of churches.
How would that happen?
Performing it. Well, certainly, for example, a teacher or a public sector worker, let's say in my patch in Enfield, a teacher who has to, by law, teach the importance of marriage. If this legislation was passed, plainly she or he would have to teach the importance of same-sex marriage, which could be against their conscience, and they could well feel themselves threatened, indeed disciplined, maybe even dismissed for exercising their liberty of conscience.
Emma, what do you make of that?
I just think, well, a few things about that. I don't think it sounds particularly progressive. I mean, just around 100 years ago, women didn't have the vote, and that was, if we were still following the historical line, women wouldn't be able to vote. But more important than that, to me, marriage isn't about a man and a woman. It's around people in love in a modern-day society. And from my point of view, the more people that have a loving foundation, the better our society will be. And I don't think it should be a question of conscience as to whether those people are the same sex. If they're in love, then surely we'll have a more peaceful, stable society as a result of that.
Encouraging commitment, you believe?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. David Burrows?
I mean, of course, it's about love and commitment, and lots of relationships are, but it shouldn't just trump which are the formal requirements, which is of a union, a sexual union, and we shouldn't ignore that. I mean,
what union?
A sexual union.
Well, it's going to be a sexual union with same-sex partnerships. Sorry I have to break this to you, but, there's no difference. There's no difference.
That's right, but also the reason why the state has continued to be involved has been, yes, about love and commitment, but also about a sexual union, and yes, also the fact that it supports two parents, and it's not just about two adults as much as one wants
to could be gay
celebrate the relationships of two adults.
But what about two people that get married, two different sex people that don't get married, and never plan to have children? I mean, surely that's the same thing as two people of the same sex getting married.
My father-in-law's in his 70s. He's just got remarried because we lost my mother-in-law a few years ago. That's clearly not about procreation. It's about companionship. It's wanting to have it sealed in church. That's how they felt. They wanted to be part of the institution of marriage. So it's not about procreation, David Burrows, is it?
Absolutely, but it isn't. One shouldn't ignore that that is also part of the package. It's celebrating the complementarity of male and female, and this has been an institution since the time immemorial, which has been defined in this way.
Women not having the vote. I mean, if we're talking about historical, that's not a progressive society. If we keep relying on things that are getting out of date and no longer relevant to a modern society.
Polygamy.
Let the state still, as it does quite properly, give legal rights and opportunities for same-sex unions. But why redefine this institution of marriage? Why redefine the meaning of marriage for us all? It's not necessary in law, and it's something which I don't believe Parliament needs to get involved in when it's dealing with lots of other issues around the country.
Let's bring Alec in, and Carol. Alec, you go first.
Okay. I'm not sure that the Institute of Marriage is actually time immemorial. There was substantial homosexual pacts made in ancient Greece, in Rome, in Egypt, those kind of things, well before
in Africa, yeah.
The alleged date when Jesus was born. No one knows when the Bible was actually written. And I'm a happily married man to my wife. I'm a Christian. But frankly, if two people want to sign a piece of paper saying, I will support you for the rest of my life, I think that's a really good thing. And I'm not interested in their sexuality. I think it's a supportive thing.
Carol, do you agree with that?
No, I don't actually. And if you go back to the Ten Commandments, why is there adultery?
Well, there's nothing in the Ten Commandments about
committing adultery. Well, you can't commit adultery to two men or two women, can you?
Sorry?
You can't commit adultery if you're in a marriage and you're two men married or two women married.
Do you think there's a problem going back to the Old Testament because it talks about the death penalty for dishonouring your parents, and there's various other things. There's a slight problem there, isn't there?
You're awfully faint, but I can just about hear you.
I feel very faint, believe you me. 47 minutes in, I feel distinctly faint. Carol, sorry, carry on.
I just feel that this was, I'm a dinosaur, I suppose, because I'm in OAP. This was a Christian country, and the standards were respect and love for people, and we all knew where we stood. No one respects authority anymore. Nobody cares. You've got people supposedly madly in love. They don't want to get married. They're living together. So why should homosexuals be a special case having to get married? I go to church, and there's only a nucleus of us support the church, but the community wants to use the church for, you've heard the expression probably, hatched, matched and dispatched, but they don't support the church for the rest of their lives.
So what about people who are gay, who would like to support the church and would like to be part of it, and would like to marry?
If people are gay, it's unfortunate they were born that way, but they should be celibate.
Why is it unfortunate? What?
They should be. They should be celibate. It is committing a sin.
Emma, do you want to come back in here?
I go back to my point of,
I think that's right. Go back to your point. That's good, yeah.
What is wrong with people being in love? I mean, why is it committing a sin? According to a book that was written by some indeterminate source hundreds of years ago.
There's nothing wrong, of course, with people in love, and we celebrate that, and the state recognise that and supports that with legal rights. But why redefine marriage? Because the point of adultery is relevant to the extent that if we redefine marriage, then that we'll need to redefine what we mean by adultery.
I don't really see it as a redefinition, because marriage, at the end of the day, is a loving commitment. Whether it's between, my point is, can I just finish? Whether it's between people that happen to be of the same sex, or have brown eyes, or left hands, or sport Manchester United.
Why would we have to redefine adultery, David Burrows?
As a legislator, because that is what is defined within case law and effectively within statute, is that we have to redefine the meaning of marriage. It can no longer, it'll be between two adults rather than between a man and a woman. Now that is the reality, and the implications of that mean that one has to look at whether there's a need to redefine adultery and non-consummation as well. There is a difference that will need a redefinition.
But it seems to be the central point of it being between a man and a woman is around the procreation, and as we discussed earlier, that isn't necessarily the case in all marriages.
But that's right. I mean, if one wants to redefine marriage, then one moves it away from the issue of procreation. One just looks at the issue of two adults, and one then has to say, well, haven't we already got civil partnerships that recognise the legal rights of two adults? Do we want to sever the link?
But it only recognises the right between two adults of the same sex, not of two adults of different sexes. So no, it's not equal, is it? So why in an equal progressive society like the UK is, why can't we have the same rights for people who are simply in love?
You're saying the same rights to go to marriage for a marriage ceremony. That's the issue of access to marriage ceremony. But in terms of legal rights that you're entitled to as a civil partner and you're entitled to as married, they are equal. It's not an issue of if it's an issue of equality, we should be arguing why heterosexuals can't be civil partners.
But if you appeal to tradition, you've got a problem there, because we look at the justifications in the hallelujah, in the Bible for slavery, and for, this is a point made by Edward by Twitter, and racial segregation and stoning.
Look, I mean,
adultery, stoning for adultery. It's there in the Bible.
You can quote me the Bible, but it's people like William Wilberforce, on the basis of the Bible, that were leading the way in abolishing transatlantic slave trade. So, you can play it different ways.
You can play it different ways. That's the whole point.
You can. Well, you can, but the point is, as far as this country is concerned, we've recognised that marriage is between a man and a woman. And one has to justify why change that? Why change that when we have legal rights properly for civil partners? Is it the case that we want to move the definition of the meaning of marriage well away from the issue of a man and a woman, the complementary role they have, and yes, the issue of parenthood? Do we want to do that? And then do we want to also, and you have no one's answered the question, do we want to impinge on the liberty of conscience of teachers, public sector and workers, who themselves will still, whatever the state wants to redefine it, will still maintain the definition of marriage as far as they're concerned between a man and a woman? Do we want to impinge on their freedom to be able to say that?
Okay, thank you.
We could say that about their conscience if we want to have them...
You're on fire. You're on fire this morning, Emma.
Thanks, Nikki. Teaching about different religions, for example, they may not agree with Judaism, they may not agree with Islam, but we are asking them to teach around that because we are a multicultural society.
This is surely the logical extension of that multicultural society, a multi-faith society, a multicultural society, a diverse society.
Okay, well, that allows space then for... when I said that I believe that marriage between a man and a woman, I've been accused of a bigot. Indeed, I received death threats as well. Are we really breeding that tolerant society that's tolerant to people who affirm that marriage is between a man and a woman?
There are appalling, bigoted, intolerant people on all sides of this.
Will allow that tolerance in the classroom for that public sector worker, for that NHS chaplain, to affirm their good conscience view, yes, for some based on the Bible, others simply because they think that's always what marriage has been about.
Well, it's not always what marriage has been about.
Anyway. Well, in this country it is true. Tell me what it hasn't been in this country. Marriage has been about a man and a woman.
Well, I don't know. Was Boudicca married? Boudica,
yes, she was.
Was she? To a woman or a man? I don't know.
She was married to a man, but it was a matriarchy.
Tell me,
she was a matriarch.
Where has it not been between a man and a woman in this country? The marriage between a man and a woman.
It depends how far we go back. Do we go back to Cro-Magnon, or do we go back to Homo erectus? Or do we go back to early Homo sapiens?
We go back to where 3,000
Neanderthals marrying each other. I don't know. Or were they having?
Procreation has always been between a man and a woman.
Let's go back to where the English law
has not necessarily always been between a man and a woman.
Magna Carta, did she die in vain? That stuff. Go on.
Let's go back to. You're taking it wonderfully seriously, Thank you. Let's go back to where English law has been in case law, in statutes, and that's recognised that if you've seen a man and a woman, that's where, as parliamentarians, we've got to legislate to redefine that definition. And so I'm asking the question, is there a need, are there legal rights that will be gained from it? And the answer is no, because we have civil partnerships.
Okay,
but what it will do is redefine for all what marriage is about.
Thank you, David. Let's go to Joe in Gateshead. Hello, Joe.
Hello.
Go on, sir.
I just don't see what the huge problem is. I consider myself fairly ignorant about the whole thing, to be quite honest.
Are you a person of faith?
Not particularly.
Right.
No, I say not particularly. I am not a person of faith, quite definitely, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
And I just don't see why there's such a big problem. I mean, if two men would like to get married or would like to kind of celebrate their partnership, or two women, I don't see what the big deal is. I mean, I was raised to kind of believe, everyone just let people get on with it, just let people do what they like. Personally, I'm a heterosexual, but I just don't get why people get so head up. Are there not more important things to be worrying about?
Well, this is one of the arguments against it, because they're saying, look, what these MPs are saying, look, the country's got huge economic problems, huge problems in all areas, and we're getting hung up on this. That's what a lot of these Conservative MPs are saying. Listen, John is a wedding photographer in Finchley, in North London. Good morning, John. This is going to be great for your business, isn't it?
Business-wise, yes, but I'll tell you the problem I have. I believe in, I'm a Catholic, not a very good Catholic, but a Catholic nonetheless. I believe in equality, so I have that dilemma. What I'm not happy with, though, is, Emma made the point before about being in love, and I don't see why being married makes you any more in love than if you're not married, but that's a side issue. What I would say is that I think that, like heterosexual couples, a lot of heterosexual couples these days, church is a pretty backdrop rather than getting married in a church for the religious reason. I think if you're genuinely Christian, Muslim, Hindi, Jewish, whatever it might be, that's a different matter. But I think just equality, so you can force a priest or a rabbi or whoever to marry you in a church is wrong, purely as a pretty backdrop. And I think Cameron's laying a trap that he's saying he won't force any churches, but as soon as it comes in, someone will make a test case to the European Court, and they will force them, just like the Catholic adoption agencies.
Do you think so? Oh,
yeah.
I want to marry in a mosque. That'll be a big row. I'll have a phone in then on it, I'll tell you.
But I think it's if for those, whether it doesn't matter whether you're gay or heterosexual, if you're genuinely of that faith, that's another matter. But somebody on one of your other programs the other day, Nikki, said that they were a Catholic and now they're an atheist because they couldn't get married in church. Well, to me, you were never a Christian because if you could just switch it off like that,
right? If you're
you were never that in the first place.
Do you think? I mean, do you believe in divorce?
Do I believe in divorce?
Yeah.
I think you have to, because I know it goes against
your teachings of the church.
Catholic, exactly. But I think that if you're in a
I'm still married to my first wife.
Marriage,
okay, yeah, go on.
Then you have to. I mean, I'm divorced, Nicky, and I'm remarried again now for over 20 years with great kids and everything else, and I couldn't get married again in the Catholic Church because it's against the teaching.
According to your church, are you still? Is your first wife still around?
Yes.
Are you still? You're still married to her in the eyes of God, according to your church, aren't you?
Well, she left me, so there wasn't a lot I could do about it as a single parent. But I remarried again in a Methodist church because I wanted to make that commitment. I would have liked
to make that commitment. That's interesting. You wanted to make that commitment. Should everybody be allowed to?
That's because of the religious side, though, Nicky. Not because I wanted nice pictures in a church.
No, but if somebody is religious and they want to make that commitment, should they be able to make that commitment, whatever their sex?
If they're genuinely religious, yes.
Yeah. Well, there we are. You've sorted it out, then, John, haven't you? If they're genuinely religious.
I
think so. John for Prime Minister. But, there's going to be a lot more marriages, maybe a lot more wedding photographs to be taken by you, John. Let's get a quick point from Nick in Kings Lynn. You've got 30 seconds, Nick.
Thank you.
Well, away from the mythological world of religion and into the real world of politics, I think David Cameron and co are no more committed to gay marriage as they were when they were choir boys at Eton. It's simple, cheap gesture politics, just to marginalise the Labour Party and for party political purposes.
No, the Labour Party are with them. They are marginalising. They're causing a rift in their own party. This doesn't.
Well, it detracts away from the real issue. It detracts away from the real issue.
What's the real issue?
The real issues are what the Tories stand for, their economy, their failed economy, and everything else. And all this nonsense about winning bishops and gay marriage is just diverts away, brings politics down into the gutter, quite frankly.
Thank you, Nick. Have a great day.
This is BBC Radio 5 Live.
Apparently the film's very good. It's 9 o'clock, it's your call. Shadow Home Secretary Yvette Cooper says gay marriage would strengthen the institution. Today the government outlines its plans for same-sex ceremonies, but it's causing dissent among Tory ranks and opposition from some church groups. Maria Miller, the Culture Secretary, says she wants to make marriage more relevant to today's society. The Conservative Home Office Minister, James Brokenshire, told us everyone should be able to enjoy a happy marriage.
Marriage is a positive thing. It's a great thing. I'm, delighted that I'm in a happy marriage. And that's something I think that all people of all sexualities should be able to benefit from.
Would allowing gay men and women to get married strengthen the institution of marriage? Call me 0500 909 693. You can text 85058. You're with 5 Live.
5 Live.
Will gay marriage strengthen the institution of marriage? Sam Dix from Stonewall. Good morning, Sam. We've just lost Sam. We'll get Sam back as soon as we possibly can. We've got Colin Hart from the Coalition.
Polling doesn't show that. It depends what question you ask. And we've done polling with Comres and with ORB, and there's also been a YouGov poll showing that the public are not in favour of redefining marriage. Now, if you ask a question, it's important to say to people that all the benefits of marriage are already available through civil partnerships. And once people hear that, there's a clear majority against redefining marriage.
But heterosexuals can't have civil partnerships.
Well, exactly. And the government is talking about equal marriage, but it's not proposing to allow heterosexuals to have civil partnerships. It'll be completely unequal. Gays will be able to go into marriage or civil partnerships, but heterosexuals will only be able to get married. That's not very equal, is it?
Sam Dick.
Well, to take the polling point, we could debate time and time again about the merits of different polling, but the YouGov polling that we commissioned actually asked people, do you support this proposal? We didn't ask them random questions about the legal this and the legal that. We simply said, do you support the government's proposal to allow same-sex couples to marry? And 71% of people said they do.
But they don't. It is an important issue of equality.
Hang on, let Sam Dick.
It is an important issue of equality to lift the ban on same-sex couples entering something which everyone agrees is a positive institution for society. It helps make couples more stable. It helps make families more stable. Why are we banning same-sex couples who are in loving monogamous relationships from entering that incredibly valuable institution?
Sam, for you, what is the extra factor about this that makes it so desirable beyond a civil partnership?
I think that, many lesbian, gay and bisexual people out there, whether they've entered civil partnerships or not, respect and value marriage. They haven't been able to enter marriage, and there are a number of couples out there who have entered civil partnerships who, had they had the choice, would have entered marriage.
What for you is the difference, though? Just explain for our listeners.
Well, for the one thing that Mr. Hart and I agree on is that marriage is a well-known, well-understood...
Married? Would it confuse...
No, it wouldn't stop me getting married, but there are people who obviously, when it comes to weighing up, I think they might think, well, what's marriage for then if it isn't one man and one woman?
Mm-hmm. Sam Dick, you're there now. Hello, we lost you for a second. Good morning. Hello.
Good morning.
Hello, Sam Dick, are you there?
I am.
All right. Did you hear any of that from Colin
Yes,
Hart?
I did. I think it's vaguely ridiculous for Mr. Hart to claim that some couples that love each other and who are looking to get married are somehow going to decide not to because other gay people somewhere else in the country are able to get married. And, most people in this country, and polling has shown it time and time again, support the government's proposals to introduce same-sex marriage, and that includes 3 in 5 people of faith. So whilst there's a small vocal minority who oppose this marriage, our advice to them is, if you disagree with same-sex marriage, don't get married to someone of the same sex.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's ridiculous, isn't it? For a start, the poll...
For marriage. Colin Hart, hello. This will strengthen marriage, won't it?
No. I think people won't know what marriage is about. In Spain, where they introduced gay marriage, the number of people getting married, heterosexuals, plummeted because people just didn't know what marriage was about.
Well, surely that might be other social factors rather than this. You're not going to not get married to somebody because all of a sudden same-sex people are marrying. It's the
point. It's the point. If you don't know what marriage is, then if it's
it's two people who love each other forming this bond, institutionalized.
Yeah, but marriage has always been between one man and one woman, and that predates nation states and predates the church. It's a very ancient institution. It's recognised all over the world, and there's only 11 countries in the world where it's been changed, and the government is steamrolling this through. It wasn't in the manifesto. It wasn't in any party manifesto. And
would it stop you getting married if you weren't